Let's go. Let's go. I think we are live. Hello and welcome to the channel. I have not been this excited to share the thoughts and perspectives and react to the content that we are going to react to today. So get ready because it is going to be a fun ride. We got a lot of stuff we're going to look at. We're going to look at some content from Charlie Kirk. We're going to look at some content from Dave Ramsey. We're going to look at some articles, some breakdowns of research on return on investment for college. This video is very much tailored towards the conversations that young American leaders, young American students, high school, going into college, maybe you're in the workforce currently, you already graduated high school and you're considering, do I go back to college? I'm in the same boat as you. So by the way, I am not looking down on anybody that I'm talking to this about. I am in the same season as you are, and I am excited to share all the things that I'm learning and observing from the world of education, especially higher level education. And y'all, there is so much to talk about, but we got to start by saying I have been dubbed this week. Oh, y'all, I have been dubbed a Chinese troll on X this week from some random account. I was exercising my right to free speech and to respond and to comment and to share my thoughts and perspectives. And some random account started trolling me and following me all over X and calling me a Chinese troll. No one cares what I have to say, blah, 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 whatever. And it made me just laugh because I went and checked out her account and it's, very, very liberal, very, very left in her opinions and policies and perspectives. There's actually not a lot of policy opinions, just a lot of name calling, but it just makes me laugh and chuckle and also feel sad at the same time. But mostly in this case, just chuckle a little bit because, here's the great part about free speech. You have the right to exercise it. You have the right to say whatever you want to say. And at the end of the day, the people who are doing their research, who are reading before they speak, who are listening before they speak, who are making educated statements, who are, bringing both sides into perspective, who are doing some serious critical thinking before we open our mouths, this will always rise above and be a distinction of all of the name calling and the bashing and the immature responses in the political world and the social world. It's laughable to me sometimes that we think, we think so many things, but I want to start this by encouraging you. Listen, people who use critical thinking, people who read, study from a variety of perspectives, people who ask questions, people who lean in and take initiative, y'all are still going to get ahead in the game. And it depends on your objective, right? It depends on what game you want to play. But at the end of the day, all of these things are absolutely still worthwhile, still valuable. And there are so many opportunities for us as young America to take a hold of, take on in the world that we live in, whether it's in the political realm, whether it's, a trade that you want to learn and actually do as a career, or it's some other kind of way that you are engaging with the economy, engaging with the needs of your communities and the people around you. We're going to talk about all of this, y'all. We're going to talk about the objectives, why you should get a college degree or shouldn't get a college degree. Again, I'm in the same boat as you. So I am having these conversations with myself and the people that I surround myself with who help me with decision making as well. And it's going to be great. So I want to start this off by listening to a little bit of a Dave Ramsey episode. This is just an excerpt from a longer show. Dave Ramsey is on with his co-host, George Camel, and they are breaking down an article, a comprehensive breakdown, return on investment analysis from the Foundation of Research on Equal Opportunity, free app. And all of these things that I reference in this episode are down in the description of this video, so you can follow along. You can look at all the sources. I'm going to do my best from this video onward to make sure that when I am referencing articles or videos that you can actually go watch the longer portions. You can go watch the full videos out there, even if I've edited them in advance on my side to kind of give you the highlights. I want to make sure that you have access to the original source. We're going to talk a lot about that in the future, how important it is to, instead of, getting your information from a commentator, like use commentators, use opinion material, opinion content to kind of steer you in the direction of what you should be looking for or what you should think as you're looking through it. But really, like, go back to the source, go back to the articles, go back to the stuff that other people are referencing so that you have a clear understanding of what's actually being said in full context. Because y'all, this is a huge way that culture, the world, news agencies, social media are making us think things that are not true. They're pulling certain elements, they're pulling certain information or certain words that we're saying out of context, and then making all these opinions, making all these statements about what they said or what she did or blah, 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 whatever it is. And it's not in context. Context is still king. So this is something that I will endlessly promote and endlessly value here on the channel. So you can always count on sources and materials in the description. So we're going to start with this video. We're jumping right in. This is in the middle of the video, a little bit kind of on the beginning side, but they're going to jump right in. And again, they're going through this free app article. It's a breakdown on Is College Worth It? A comprehensive return on investment analysis. And the reason we're going to talk about the ROI of college is because lots of people aren't talking about it. And if you were taking on any job in any career and saying, wait a minute, how much gas am I using to get to the job? What are the benefits? Does this actually pay for, my bills and the things that I need to pay for? Is this a reasonable job? Whenever we're looking at the amount of time, the amount of energy, the investment that we're putting into something, we're looking at, does it actually return to me? Does it return in bigger amounts to me? We're always looking at the ROIs in other areas of our lives. And then somehow when it comes to college and education, we're not doing that. So this is a very, very helpful and important conversation. I want you to kind of enjoy a little bit of this segment from Dave Ramsey and George Kamel here in the stream. Okay, we're going to jump right into this.
Yeah. They just did a full comprehensive rate of return analysis on college, and it's called Is College Worth It? And it's from freeop.org, F-R-E, 1E, O-P-P. So this report assesses the economic value of nearly 30,000 bachelor's degree programs at 1,775 colleges and universities across the United States. Very interesting, detailed study on this. 4 in 5 engineering programs have an ROI above $500,000.
Wow.
You get a degree in engineering, you will make your money back and make an extra $500,000 over your life, at least, as a result of having done this.
I'm going to pause right here. You'll notice as he continues down this video, as you listen to this video, he's going to talk about the distinction between certain kinds of degrees. What are you actually going into? And how is that also giving you a specific ROI, right? So like not all college degrees are equal. So they're talking about engineering right now, but they're going to continue to talk about all college degrees and the breakdown there when it comes to the return on investment. What are some of the careers that are worth going into? What are some of the careers that are not worth going into? He's going to give us just like a preview, like a buffet style. And then we're going to break down more in depth on that conversation and how to really assess for yourself and do the investigation, what to actually be researching as you're deciding, what do I want to go into? What is actually going to be a return on investment? What is going to actually teach me practical, relevant, respected, valuable skills in the economy? And then I'll also share some of my lessons from my own experience in education, not only in going to community college, then dropping out, being in the workforce for several years, and then going back to college now in the future, next year, which is wild. We're going to talk all about that, but pay attention to what he says next, because he's talking about engineering, and then they kind of zoom out to look at more of the bigger perspective on different college degrees.
But what was the number? Was it 1 in 16? What was the 16 number?
16% have a negative ROI of all programs.
So almost 1 in 5 of all, not engineering, of all degrees. So when you get this degree and you pay too much for it at some kind of a famous school because you wanted to go to a famous school, or you study something that's just dumb. You're just dumb for getting a degree in that.
I love Dave Ramsey. I love his sense of humor. He just says he says what he says. He doesn't apologize for it. It's man.
It's kind of weird that we're dumb about education, but we are. And that's just dumb to get a degree in this nuanced BB stacking, underwater BB stacking. I've got a master's degree in that. I've got a master's degree in Czechoslovakian medieval art.
That doesn't ROI?
You're not going to make money on this, dude. This is going to be there's only one thing you can do with that. Become a professor of Czechoslovakian art. That's all you can do. There's no jobs for that except at Starbucks. That's it. And so you're going to be a barista. That's what you're going to be. And there's no ROI on your Czechoslovakian medieval art degree. So this is the thing, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it goes on to say here, and this is no shocker, that the bachelor's degree programs like engineering, computer science, economics, nursing, they do have a positive ROI. But when you start to go into art, music, philosophy, religion, psychology, it says students can be financially worse off than if they'd never gone to college at all. And so that scares me. And a lot of people, they're not thinking about college choice, and they're not thinking about the ROI of their degree. And we talk about how we're not against education. We just want the education to match the goals. So if you want to be a nurse, yes, you got to go to school. But if you want to go into art, unless you want to be an art teacher, you may not need to go get a 4-year degree at the Ivy League school.
I love this distinction. I'm going to pause again. I love this distinction because this is something that I didn't think about when I was initially choosing a college degree. When I was considering, what do I want to go into? What am I thinking about going into? Just kind of assuming that college was the route, right? Like, I'm going to go to college for something. I might as well go into art. It's something that I'm super into. I'm very fascinated with it. I love it. I've been doing it my whole life. I might as well go to college for it, right? And I know lots of my peers, other people who are even younger than me, who are in that position again. I feel like I'm in that position all over again, last second round. But for, those who are in high school, considering what they want to do, are having these conversations with their parents, with their peers, with their friends, whatever, and saying, what do I want to go into? Are we actually looking at the return on investment of a college degree, especially because college degrees nowadays are so insanely expensive that no one can actually legitimately afford them unless you take out a loan, and then you're paying back you're paying back for your school for years and years afterwards. It's crazy to me how many people who are in their middle-aged season of life and are still paying back college. I've watched people, good friends of mine, who have college debt and loans that they're still paying back, and it's just this heavy, stressful thing on them. And then I have family members who have, I have a brother who's finishing his master's degree and he's debt-free. He's worked his butt off this entire time that he's been in college so that he's not in debt. And at the end of the day, when he's done with college and he's graduated, he's not going to have debt chasing him around, where a lot of other people will. And then a huge portion of whatever you're doing, whether you're using your degree or you're not using your degree, is now following you around, following you, following your spouse, following your kids, following your family, because now you're in debt. And what's sad to me is that there is still such a pressure on young adults to immediately go from high school into college. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to finish this out because this whole conversation is really great. Again, you can view this video from Dave Ramsey and George Camel down in the description below and watch the whole video there.
After accounting for the risk of dropping out, ROI for the median bachelor's degree drops to $129,000 on average. That's the median. Over a quarter of the programs have a negative ROI. Elite schools like Caltech and Penn dominate the list of the highest ROI programs, but attending an elite school is not a golden ticket. Some Ivy League degrees have negative ROI. And let me just tell you, it's hard to get an ROI when you pay $200,000 for a bachelor's degree. I don't care what it's in. It's hard to get a return on that investment. And versus if you'd have paid $60,000 for that same degree from a state school, you would have gotten the same freaking job, by the way. The same exact job. if you got, a degree in IT security, 4-year degree in information systems, specialization in IT security, excellent degree field. You got a degree in supply chain. Oh my God, obviously we need some of those people working right now. And so, you got a degree in that. That's a big time job. I mean, most of those jobs, people are coming out state school making $85,000 right now with an undergrad.
Wow.
No masters. Okay.
I'm going to stop it here. So they get really, really nerdy in this video. You can go watch more of it over on the Dave Ramsey channel. But this transitions us beautifully into the whole conversation around what are you going into? What is the return on investment? What is the investment that you're putting in on the front end? How does that lengthen out the amount of time? See, this is the thing. It's not even just purely only exclusively about your return on investment. It's also how long does it take you from the time that you graduate or even before you graduate, when you're in your field, when you get a job in your field based on your degree, how long does it take to actually get that return on investment? How long does it take to pay off for college when you're actually in the career that you're choosing? And you may be one of those people who, maybe you're a parent of a child that's trying to make a career decision and you're like, oh my goodness, I know what it's like to have gone 4 years plus. Now college, even getting a bachelor's is now more like a 5th year for a lot of colleges. But truly, like, you may be one of those people that got a degree in something and then ended up not using it in your career. You didn't need it. Maybe you went in a completely different field. And so young America is having a really hard time trying to figure out, do I want to invest in college? And then if I'm not going to go to college, then what is the other route? What is it that I'm actually choosing instead? And this is where I see a lot of young people get stuck, including myself in many ways. There were definitely seasons, I'm a go-getter, but there were definitely seasons where I was like, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my next options are. I didn't finish my college degree. What does that mean? There's still a lot of stereotypes and conversations and talk in the world about like, you need a college degree to make it, to be anybody, to be somebody in the world. And I definitely got a lot of that lingo, a lot of that agenda from people around me at all times in the world, in my workforce, all the things. You need a college degree to be somebody. And the reality is so many of these college degrees are so insanely subjective and armed with liberal agendas, and we're going to talk about that as well. We have some articles to look through. We're going to watch some debate kind of conversations from Charlie Kirk. He has a book out about college being a scam. We're going to look at that. I definitely don't agree that all colleges are a scam, and actually Charlie Kirk doesn't believe that either. If you go in depth and look at his conversations with college students, with other people, in his debates, in his interviews, you can hear him say, hey, there are definitely degrees and careers that we need people to go into to actually serve a need that the economy has. And the majority, a huge percentage of people who are getting degrees in the liberal arts, in, music and traditional art and philosophy and psychology and all of these things that are very, very subjective, that aren't a physical, literal skill. A lot of times they're walking away with these very fancy degrees and feeling like, wait a minute, how do I actually use this? Where do I actually go? Do I just now go back into the system that I just got out of and be a professor, be a teacher? And does that seem productive or effective to me? Is that really what I wanted to do? There's so many struggles and question marks. So this is one of the things, I'm going to give you a lot of practical advice, because these are things that I'm also learning as I go, in really seeing and figuring out how to maneuver in the workforce world. What do I need? What are the actual skill sets, information, education that I actually need for the jobs that I'm doing? Depending on the career that you're in, what college degrees actually would be helpful, what college degrees actually would be effective, what college degrees would actually have a return on investment. But the biggest thing that I would encourage you to do, if you're in that position where you're considering, where do I go to college? I'm thinking about going back to college, or I'm, in high school and considering going to college. Talk to people in the field that you want to go into about the practicalness of their degree. Also understand that if they are much, much older than you, there may be factors that have changed. There may be, elements that have changed in the career. I would advise you to talk to lots of different age groups, and be critical and mindful and thoughtful about the differences that may be there. But do your research. Do your research before you just willy-nilly jump into a degree, because you may just be, oh, y'all, you may just be spinning your wheels for 4 years, maybe even 5 years. So this is such an opportunity for you to already start practicing critical thinking skills, already starting to practice, how do I discern based on my own worldview, based on my priorities, based on what matters to me, based on what's important to me? What are the decisions that I'm going to make? Where am I going to put my time? Where am I going to put my focus? Where am I going to put my attention? Where am I going to put my resources, which are a lot of things. It's not just your time or your money, but it's also your focus and your attention. Where am I going to put these things? And is what I'm getting out of it actually worth what I put into it? Right? And this is a bigger conversation than just, did I like my degree? Did I like going to college? Is this like a cool experience? Because y'all, there are so many things in our lives that could be fantastic experiences because of what we make of it. And going and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and going into debt just to get a college experience you're going to be disappointed at the end of the day. I'm very, very grateful. I know so many of my peers, so many colleagues, so many people who do the exact same job that I've done, that have gotten, their bachelor's, their master's, all of these different degrees. And they ended up saying, wow, like, now I just feel bitter and resentful about the time that I spent instead of grateful for what I learned and grateful for what I'm gaining in the workforce. It's not just about the resource. It's also about a mentality of, why am I doing this and how does it actually serve a real problem? Mike Rowe is huge on this. If you guys don't know Mike Rowe, he is doing a lot for getting back to the practical jobs, the dirty jobs that need to be done in the world, the plumbers, the construction workers, the electricians, like the people who need to be, like, we need them. We are absolutely dependent on them, even though we often don't think about them as respectable jobs. We think about them as, well, they got washed up in college and so now they're doing this simple thing. No, they are incredibly valuable. And so many times, those are the careers that get missed, that don't even get considered. And yet they're very practical, they're very relevant, they're very timeless, and they will always be needed. You will always need a plumber. If something goes wrong in your house, you will need a plumber to come help you out. You will always need an electrician. If you want a house, if you want to buy a house, someone needed to have put the electricity and all of the wires and outlets and everything, making sure that it's up to code, that it's all working properly. You're going to need somebody to do that to even be able to buy a house, right? So there are so many careers and jobs and things that you can do at trade school. You can learn from somebody, you can get certified and have it be a lot cheaper than going to college. So this is your opportunity to do your due diligence, to do your research on, hey, I'm considering going into this degree. What's the return on investment for that? Talk to people who are older than you, who are, just out of college and going into the career that you want to go into. But also, if you're in a position where you're not sure what you want to go into, and that may be many of you that are watching this and that watch this after the fact, there may be many of you that aren't sure. And in some ways, I resonate a lot with that, because even though I did several years at a community college, I almost had my associates, and then I said, this is a waste of my life and my time. And I quit and went right into the workforce for 4+ years. But as someone who wasn't I knew that I was interested in a vast amount of things. I was interested in a lot of things. I loved art. I loved creativity. I loved communication. I loved leadership. I loved all of these things that were, probably more subjective in nature. And so I just automatically thought that, well, what I enjoy is what I should go into as a career, and what I enjoy is what I should go into as a degree. And the hard truth of this is that that's not always a good way to judge in what you actually want to go into, what you should go into, that will actually give you the sustainability, give you the consistency, give you the financial freedom, give you that sustainability underneath you, for your family, for the people that you love and care about, for the things that you want to invest in, for the community that you want to serve. Going into what you like, going into what you're interested in is not always a great gauge for what is going to be the most effective or the most productive degree or career. Now, what I will say is going into something that you hate is probably not a good idea. You probably won't complete it. You probably won't enjoy the work. And so one of the big things that I did to kind of get clear when I was going into college, and honestly, in a lot of ways, it's what had me leave college, because I realized, oh man, I'm doing all these internships. I'm doing all these things. I'm getting these shadow work. I'm working on these stuff where I'm actually getting to shadow people that are doing the careers that I want to do. And I'm getting opportunities to actually work for these people and work in these areas and work in these fields without the degree. Why do I need the degree? Right. And so this is an opportunity for you to, email people that are in your field, get on a phone call with them, get in an in-person meeting, go do some internships, even if they're free. If you're in high school and you got time to kill and you're not sure what you want to do in college, go do a free internship in a degree that you're interested in, or in a career that you want to do. Go get out there and be engaged in the fields that you're interested in. Even if it's like, I'm not dead set on this, but I'm interested in it, go shadow somebody for a day. Go shadow someone for a week. I can't tell you how excited people are when you say, hey, I just shared this with a new friend of mine who's 17. She lives in Texas. She wants to be an ultrasound tech. And she's such a beautiful, beautiful young woman and loves family, wants to be a mom someday, wants to be a wife, wants to have kids. And she loves life. She loves being a part of the process of new life. And so she wanted to be an ultrasound tech. And I was like, that's awesome. Have you ever thought about going and interning or shadowing or, talking with people and understanding what about their job they love and actually observing what they do, right? And she was like, wait, what, you can do that? It's like, yes, you can. And a lot of times you got to initiate. You've got to be the one to jump in and actually say, hey, I want to do this. I'm interested in this. Is there an opportunity here? And what's amazing is most of the time people will say, oh my goodness, yes, please. And in cases where they don't offer, somebody coming in, maybe it's a sensitivity of the career or whatever, they often can send you somewhere where you are able to actually participate, shadow, do an internship of sorts, even if it's unofficial. Sometimes you can even get high school credit, right? So there's so many opportunities that are around you if you just say, hey, I'm putting my name in. I'm interested in this. What are the details? Tell me more. This is something that I want to do. People want to be a part of the next generation, being, career focused, being service focused, being engaged in the economy in a real practical way. And leading into that, one of the lessons that I had to learn kind of the hard way was that I spent my whole adult life in careers that were very art driven. And I love art. I will always love art. And what I realized after running a business for 4+ years in the creative arts, in lots of varieties of different fields and different things, what I realized is, man, like these are amazing. These are amazing things to offer. But when people are struggling in the economy, when people are struggling to put gas in their car, to put groceries in their refrigerators, to put food on the table, to pay their bills, to pay their phone bill, to, pay for their kids' education, when they're struggling to actually do the basic necessity sort of things, then offering them something that they may want but don't actually need or won't contribute to their life, contribute to their bank account, contribute to their, the food on the table, the groceries in the refrigerator, the gas in the car. It's like the first thing that will go in an economy that is struggling to pay for their necessities are the accessories. And I would say the exception to that is my generation and younger, because we haven't learned the value of prioritizing what actually is needed and what is a lifestyle choice, right? We struggle a lot with deciding, hey, do I pay for YouTube Premium or do I put gas in the car? Do I save ahead to put gas in the car next month, or am I paying for Starbucks today, right? We haven't learned that discernment and that critical thinking of what is actually more important and thinking ahead to the next month and the month after that and the next year and the year after that even in a way that has open hands, because at the end of the day, we can plan and plan and plan, and God's the one that actually makes the plans. So hello, great reminder for those of you who are considering what career you're going to go into. At the end of the day, you can plan and you can prepare, and life may be very different than what you expect. Being able to learn and shift and adjust on your feet is a part of critical thinking. And critical thinking, being able to think for yourself, being able to decide, discern, listen to different voices in the room, and actually discern, okay, based on what I'm hearing, what I'm noticing, what I'm reading, what I'm bringing in and intaking, what is true, to actually be able to use your understanding of people, their behavior, our natural bias. Oh, wait, we all have bias. Guess what? Every single person in the world has a bias. Assuming that we have bias-free spaces is it's stupid. And we can definitely bring multiple perspectives into the room, and we can engage in conversation, and that helps us to be able to discern between different biases. But at the end of the day, everybody has a bias. So being able to understand and have the critical thinking to say, hey, based on my worldview, based on what I believe is true, these are the things that I prioritize. Does this decision, does this option, does this choice support those things? Does this choice support the belief system, the worldview, the priorities that I have, right? You may take two people next to each other, right? You may take somebody who is very career focused, very independent, doesn't necessarily want to get married, is very politically involved, is very driven in their career, and their priorities may be very different than the person next to them who's family focused. I want to be a mom, I want to have kids. My career choices are in reflection to that goal in mind, right? Those two people will have very different priorities for the investment, for the time, for the resources that they're putting into their career, for the things that they're doing in their life to reach those objectives. And that's really what George Kamel was saying in this video. Like, we're absolutely for college and for further education, but when it meets the objective, do you understand what your objective is? And so these are the things that are really important. Like, if you're choosing a college degree before you understand the return on investment, the objective that you're going after, your worldview, what are the priorities in your life, then you're going to end up making a decision that you regret down the road, or influences parts of you that you may not have wanted to be changed or influenced. And that leads us into our next conversation. Many of you, most of you on this channel know that I am conservative, that I'm a Christian. That guides a lot of my priorities. It guides everything that I choose, everything that I discern through the natural bias that I have based on my worldview, based on my beliefs. And so I'm always going to talk to an audience that values that, even if there are nuances that are different about our belief system, about what we believe, about what we prioritize. I'm always going to talk from that perspective, right? How are we guarding our hearts? How are we having discernment about, this is my worldview, this is what I believe is true, and I'm going to make decisions based on those priorities? We're always going to talk about it from that perspective. So for those of you who are like, I don't like your worldview, I don't like your beliefs, I don't like that you're a Christian, you probably don't want to be watching this channel, because everything will infiltrate from that perspective. But one of the things that has been really interesting to observe, not only in kind of the natural understanding that a lot of higher education is very, very liberal, it has a very liberal agenda, but also really investigating, what does that actually look like? What do students walk away actually thinking and believing about higher level of education? And one of the articles out there that is really, really fascinating, I'm going to pull it up for you guys so that you can see it. Oh, y'all. This is an article from today.ugov on what college graduates say about college, in particular when it comes to, did they walk away more liberal, did they walk away more conservative, or did they believe that their college experience did not really engage their political perspectives? And what I will definitely say that may not be explicitly said in this article is, if a college or an influence in your life, if an institution, an organization, whatever it is, something that you're investing in, that these are the voices of authority in your head, if they are influencing your political opinions, they are absolutely influencing your worldview. because your politics, your belief around how the country that you live in should run, what you're basing that off of, right? Most of us would assume, but it's not an assumption to make anymore. Most of us would assume that, hey, if you live in the United States, then you respect and value the, original tenets of the founding fathers. You value the Constitution of the United States of America. You value the independence, the Declaration of Independence. You value these things that the founding fathers wrote as the core structure of our country. You value the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate. You value the structures. You respect the structures that are built into our country. But that's not an assumption that we can make anymore, because there are so many people that are in the United States that live here, that engage in the economy, that use resources, that live in homes, that are our neighbors, that don't value our country, that don't agree with the core structure, the core tenets of our country, that believe lots of things that cancel out their respect or their admiration for the founding fathers. And so therefore, they're walking around in the world and they're saying, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. And I'm here to take you out. I'm here to, essentially I'm here to sabotage your country because I don't agree with it, but I'm also going to live here and engage and, take from your country and from your economy. Mind-blowing to me. It's not an assumption that we can make anymore. But colleges in particular are breeding ground for liberal agendas being infiltrated into every aspect of the classroom, of the apprenticeships, of the engagement, of what's allowed on campus, what's not allowed on campus, the real control of free speech, ? I say free speech ? Because I'm not really sure that there are a lot of actual free speech spaces in college and in liberal colleges nowadays, which are a lot of colleges. But this article is a very interesting article because it breaks down a poll. They polled, I'm going to read this to you. You can read it on the screen. Again, these are also linked in the description down below. I always want to make sure that you guys have the original sources for this information. Some of you may walk away and say, that's no. And you have the right to say that because I want to give you the sources and you decide for yourself if this is relevant information. I try to do my best to vet what I'm using. And at the end of the day, there's going to be some times where I mess up. But we're going to talk about this. Most college graduates say college makes people more liberal. This was written in 2022. A recent YouGov poll asked more than 22,000 Americans their opinions on how a college education affects a person's political ideology. Again, your political ideology highly, highly influences your worldview because your political ideology definitely flows from what you believe about the world, your place in the world, other people, and their relationship to you and their relationship to each other. All of these things come from your core worldview about what you believe about those things, and your politics is going to flow from that. So do not assume that it's just politics, but this is literally worldview change, okay? So 22,000 Americans on their opinions on if the college experience impacted their personal political ideology. Nearly half of Americans, 47%, including 56% of college graduates, say that going to college generally makes people more liberal. Now, you're not going to hear this from the college teachers. You're not going to hear this from the main stakeholders in the colleges. You're not going to hear this from the people at the federal level funding these colleges. You're not going to hear this from them, but you are hearing this, thank the Lord, you're hearing this from the actual people who have graduated from these institutions. You're hearing from people who are, and what's interesting is the title says most college graduates say college makes people more liberal. I don't necessarily see that these are graduates. These may be people that are still in college. It doesn't make that explicitly clear in the content itself, but these are definitely people who are at college or have been at college saying, hey, it makes you more liberal. So nearly half of Americans, 47%, including 56% of college graduates, say that going to college generally makes people more liberal, while only 6% say it makes them more conservative. Now, what's laughable about that number is probably highly influenced in the fact that 6% likely went to a conservative and actually conservative college. There are lots of conservative colleges that are not actually conservative. They're like wolves in sheep's clothing. It's like you might as well just tell everybody that you're liberal and just call it good, because the sneaking around and having different opinions and not actually communicating them is kind of lame. Just say what you are, right? Well, only 6% say it makes them more conservative. About 1 in 5 say college has no effect on ideology, that 22%. That must have been the 22% that was sleeping in the back and didn't really care and was disconnected and apathetic to the college experience and probably didn't apply themselves. So we'll just say that about those 22%. People who are themselves very conservative or conservative are more likely to say that going to college makes a person very liberal than people who identify as liberal are to say this. Now, this is what's really fascinating, and you can look through this whole article. I want you to go and actually do the research. Go look at this. Go Google different stats. Go do your research. If this is something that really interests you, you care about your own college experience or your kids' college experience. And when I say experience, I don't mean about like how many friends they made. I mean about, are they applying themselves? Are we applying ourselves in college in a way that actually gets to the objective that we went there for? I can't tell you. And you may be one of those people. I can't tell you how many people I talked to who said, yeah, my original verbiage around why I was going to college, yeah, it wasn't actually true. I was there for the parties. I was there for the experience. I was there for the people. I was there for all that. And I mean, okay, but be honest about it. Like, if that's why you're at college, fine. You're paying a pretty penny for networking. You're paying a pretty penny for having fun with friends and partying. Those are some pretty expensive parties. But whatever, if that's what you're up to, fine, just call it for what it is. But what's so incredible is it's, especially in these very famous, I love how Dave Ramsey says it, in these very, very famous colleges, we like to call them prestigious, but it's really more famous. They're well known, which is why they can charge more and to be more selective about who they bring in. But these famous colleges, they're charging you insane amounts. You're going into debt, all of these things. And you are likely going to walk away, not just, there's a difference between your worldview being challenged in a way that builds resilience, challenged in a way that actually tests what you believe from an ideology perspective to a practical, how do I live? How do I function in the world? How do I respond? How do I respond when I'm out of water as a fish, right? Like, how would they know they're in water? How would they know if they're out of water? How do I actually experience my ideology in a practical way in the world? Is what I'm saying what I'm actually being and what I'm actually doing? And these are huge, huge factors for young adults, because oftentimes we're not being tested in these arenas. And so we have these belief systems, we have these worldviews that we're just adopting because our parents believed it and our grandparents believed it, instead of actually having it for ourselves and knowing why and living it. And so then we go to college in these liberal areas, in these liberal environments. And the objective is not to challenge our ideologies or challenge our worldviews. The objective is to change them. The objective is to change them. And this is why, if you're a parent watching this, I want you to hear this in love. My parents, I love my parents. My parents are incredible. And we've had so many conversations about it. They've learned over the years and truly been students of their own choices, their own parenting. I've seen them change and grow and refine and get closer in their faith. And also this sense of like humility and grace around, wow, like we didn't think that was going to be a problem, and it's a problem. We didn't see that, and that's what's happening. So for those of you who are parents, I'm speaking to you, I'm pleading with you as a young adult, as someone who may be your kid's age, as someone who may be a little bit older than your kid's age. Please do not put on the blinders around politics, around social issues, around the liberal agendas that are creeping into their high school experience, their middle school experience, even their preschool and elementary experiences. Y'all, it's everywhere. Please do not put a blindfold on to what they're going to be up against in their peer groups, in their jobs, even at their entry-level Starbucks jobs. Y'all, it's everywhere. Let alone their college experience, especially if they're on campus. Oh my goodness, they're away from you. They're being tested, but they're being tested in an environment that doesn't want to challenge them from a place of growth. It wants to change what they think and what they believe and why. It will change their behavior. It will change their worldview. It will change what they believe, what they think about themselves, what they think about the world. And if you don't understand that before you're sending your kids off to school, if they don't understand that before they're sending themselves off to school, y'all, it's going to be rough, because every semester, every summer when they come back home, if they come back home, they're going to be dramatically a different person every time. And again, this is not like, growth is different than infiltration and deceptive changing of worldview. Those are very different things, right? I want to be in environments where other people have different perspectives, where other people have different belief systems. I want to be in environments where there is good faith around the conversations we're having, the debates we're having, the differences of opinions that we're having, but there is a respect of, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, and we're going to talk that out and we're going to refine it and we're going to be open, but we still have a position that we're holding. We still have a worldview, a belief system that we are holding in the context of how we're engaging with each other. There's a level of respect. Now, if you look in the political landscape, y'all, like, there's not that level of respect often. And this ends up in like cat fights, literal cat fights on the debate stage, and all of the he said, she said, name calling that happens on social media between politicians. It's really sad. I love politics. I'm excited to go into a political career and to engage in civil service. And at the end of the day, the thing that frustrates me the most about this field is the name calling, the nitpicking, all of the interrupting. We're not actually hearing people's policies. We're not actually hearing positions on what am I offering the American people as your president or as your senator or as your congressman or as your congresswoman, like whatever, right? We're not necessarily hearing those positions. We're hearing a lot of name calling, and he said this and she said that and she did this in high school and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, y'all, what is your policy? What is your position? What are you actually offering the American people? If you sit down with any business who wants to offer you something, you're going to say, hey, what's the return on investment? What's in it for me? What is in it for me, right? You're going to ask, like, what are you offering me that I perceive as value? And this is one of the hard things that I've learned in being in business, which is, if you're offering something that people don't want, they won't buy it. They won't buy it. And so this begs to question, then we question, wait a minute, if politics is all about name calling and he said this and she said that, and politics is, we see it in our very hectic year of debating and the presidential elections and the the statewide elections that are happening now as well. We see this happening a lot, which is like, we don't hear people's positions, we don't hear people's policies, we hear how loud somebody can name call the other person, how loud somebody can call the other person weird or creepy or whatever, instead of actually hearing what people are offering the American people. So we have to ask ourselves, well, if people are watching this, if people are engaging with this, if people are like playing the same game back, then what is that communicating to us around what people are used to wanting, what people are used to being served, and what people are just saying, sure, okay, well, this is just how it is. This is just what it is. And so this is oftentimes what I hear from parents who've disconnected themselves from the issues of the day, disconnecting themselves from what's happening with abortion, disconnecting themselves with what's happening in education, disconnecting from what's happening in our local, state, and federal elections. Who's actually coming into these positions? What do they believe? What is their worldview? Because every single one of them has a worldview, even if they're being vague, ambiguous about them, right? Everybody has a bias. Everybody has a belief system. Everybody has a worldview. Even if they say, well, my worldview is that I agree with everybody's worldview. That's still a worldview. So the reality is, like, if we're turning a blind eye to this stuff, then continually we're basically saying, my vote doesn't count. My voice doesn't count. My conviction to have a next generation, my kids, what they're going to experience. I hear a lot of people say, like, I want to have a better world for them. Well, then teach them to be better people. Teach them to be critical in their thought. Teach them to be discerning in their thought. It's not about having them have a nicer environment. We see how that turns out. Privileged, entitled kids who have lots of money and lots of opportunity, they don't have that same level of gratitude and responsibility for their life, for their education, for their involvement and responsibility in the world, in the economy, in their communities. They don't have that sense. It's so fascinating. I was talking to my mom the other day. She grew up with nothing. Like she and her, it was just her and her mom. And she was sharing with me, she was like, I got scholarships and things to go to college initially, and I bombed it. Like, there wasn't that level of respect for what I was doing, even though I came from nothing, right? So it's not just people who, daddy's paying for it. I remember those colleagues. I remember those college peers in my college classes, because they were on their third try of that college class because they didn't care about it. So it's not just the ones that grew up with money. It's when young adults do not have skin in the game, when they're not actually involved financially, resourcefully, when they're not involved in the decisions they're making, and they're not involved in the consequences, the natural consequences of what they're up to and what their choices are actually creating around them, then guess what? There's not that level of value. And this rolls right into our next video that we're going to react to, which is a segment from Charlie Kirk's. He's doing like a campus debate. I'm not sure exactly which campus he's on in this video, but I did link this segment of the video down below. You can also go look through his content and see maybe the full version. I don't know where the full version is, but this was really, really interesting. This is just a segment. This conversation, I'll give you a little context. This conversation with this young guy who is a college student started with, "Hey, Charlie, I disagree with your opinion that college is a scam. I don't believe that people who don't have a degree have the same level of success in their career. I don't believe that they have the same level of education. I don't believe that he starts asking questions about, like, can you explain biology to me? Can you explain it from a PhD level? Blah, 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 all of those things." And it's so interesting because he says in this one segment in the video, he's like, Charlie's like, "Listen, I've sat here and debated people with, PhDs, and I'm totally fine doing it." And this guy said, "Well, that's your job." And Charlie says, "Well, that's the point. I don't have a college degree. This is my job. This is what I do. I can do whatever I want to do." And it takes grit, and it takes determination. And sometimes it takes pushing through those extra layers of doors that you have to initiate to not, maybe if you don't have a college degree. And that teaches you a lot of work ethic and character. So there's definitely, like, just because it's harder or more challenging potentially doesn't mean that it's actually worse off or less than. So let's watch a segment of this video. It's pretty short, but this is a segment of a longer form video with him talking to this guy. So we're gonna watch this.
You look at the average. How much debt do you have to go to school, by the way?
None.
None. Okay, wow. Are you on scholarship or?
Yeah,
Okay, so who's paying for your college then?
probably the federal government.
Okay, so I'm paying for your college, is what you're saying. My taxes are paying for your college. So wait, you're on grant or what?
I'm not going to discuss my college finances with
Well, no,
you.
this is really important. This is why you're so defensive of college.
Yeah?
This is why you're so forceful, because you don't have to walk around the rest of your life with a $100,000 student
I know
loan debt.
plenty of people that have part-time jobs and go to college.
This explains you perfectly. I, the taxpayer, when I write my check to the IRS, I'm subsidizing your ability to go to college.
Okay. When
And I
I
think that's a
write
huge
my
mistake,
check to the
'cause
IRS, I
'cause
also give money for people to go to college.
You should have skin in the game. You should, and you don't right now. You are doing a freeloading thing. Of course, you should be defensive of
I
college.
pay taxes. I pay federal taxes.
Yeah,
I pay state taxes.
I'm sure I pay a little bit more than you, but that's a
separate.
separate issue. But the point is this:
That's probably true.
do you think you pay anywhere close to the tuition value you get at the school? Probably not.
Yeah, probably I do. It's like $5,000 a semester. It's a lot of money, but you get a lot out of
Wait,
that.
hold on. How much is it to go to school here?
It's around $5,000
So in-state.
in-state. Yeah.
Okay, did that include room and board and tuition?
No.
Okay, how much does that cost?
Room, board, tuition, all of it's around $11,000.
11,000 a semester. So you pay $22,000 a year in taxes?
No.
Okay, got it. So you're in a tax deficit, which means the U.S. taxpayer is subsidizing your education. That's fine. I'm not faulting you for it, but this is why you're so defensive, is you're detached from the price. You're detached from the cost. It's easy to be defensive of something you're not paying for.
It's easy to be defensive about something that you're not paying for. And y'all, go watch the longer version of this video, because the back and forth engagement between Charlie and this guy is really, really interesting. Watching kind of his position and his defensiveness. I know that Charlie says it in this video, but go back and watch it, and see what you learn and observe from this conversation. And this is definitely one person, one interaction. It doesn't mean that everybody who's on scholarship or getting a grant from, the government or whatever, it doesn't mean that all of these people are responding in this way. Not at all, right? If you are on scholarship, if you are going to a four-year college and you have to pay, you're paying significantly less than everybody else, well, awesome, go apply yourself, right? But somebody paid for that. And I think that's a huge factor here. Like, I'm preparing myself to go back to college. I'm, engaging in scholarships and grants and getting different things to make it possible for me to go, getting a job, making sure that, the money that I'm bringing in from my work is also going towards saving for that. And what's so fascinating is, like, when you think about the reality that whether your money is coming from the federal government and you have loans, or it's coming from the federal government and you have grants, or it's private grants, or it's private scholarships from the college, from donors of the college, whatever that is, these are real people, real entities, real organizations that are contributing, that are paying for your college. Your college isn't free because you pay less or you pay nothing. Someone is paying for your college. And in this case, Charlie's saying, listen, if you're getting federal loans or federal grants, my taxes are paying for that. And he tries to say, well, I pay for my taxes and I pay, state and federal taxes. Well, of course you do, because you have to, right? We all have to. So it's like, yeah, duh. And it's a lot less. So it just goes to show that if we're coming from this perspective of frustration and resentment or entitlement from the college degrees that we have, or where we want to go, or if we, it's understanding and having that sense of humility to say, wait a minute, even if I'm getting a lower, I'm having to pay a lower amount for my college degree because I have scholarships, because I have grants, because I have loans, whatever that is, somebody's still paying for it. Somebody's still paying for it. And when you realize that whatever engagement that you have in the economy, because by the way, going to college is also an engagement in the economy. Generally they may be public colleges, they may be private colleges. You may be, paying out of pocket for these colleges. These are, organizations, business models where you are, trading for value. You got to decide if, hey, is this valuable? One of the things that I would definitely push back, and I'm sure that Charlie would, in some ways, I'm sure he would actually agree with this, but, when you get to the point where young adults actually understand what they're saying yes to, right? Because that's a huge factor here is, do young adults understand that they have a choice to go to college in these different degrees, to choose even within that college or within those different degrees, what kind of degree to get or not, or to go into the trades or go into the workforce immediately and work your way up? Do they know they have those options? Are they learning the critical thinking and discerning skills to understand that? And if so, yo, bud, it's on you, right? In other words, if you're going to college and you're paying the amount out of pocket, you're getting a scholarship, you're getting a grant, you're getting a loan, whatever it is, listen, it's on you to apply yourself in a way that actually brings value to those resources and that time and that money that you're investing in that, or that other people are investing in you. Because ultimately a scholarship is someone saying, I believe that you're going to make a difference and that you're going to engage in this institution and you're going to engage in the world. So I'm giving you the scholarship. Hey, somebody put that money down for that scholarship to be received to you, right? So understanding this, it's so important that we understand and follow the trail of where are the resources coming, and are we in that level of gratitude and respect for where that's coming from? Because people are absolutely paying for those things. So, oh man, y'all, it's been kind of a wild ride. I think we're to about an hour now in this video, but I want to close by kind of bringing all of the things that we've shared, bringing all the things that we've talked about into some really practical tips for you if you are considering on going back to college. First off, I'm in the process of working on going back to college, getting a completely different degree than I've ever gotten before, really going into the practicalness of the economy, the practicalness of engaging with the needs that people have, not the wants. It's not that I absolutely, hey, listen, if you have a business or you have a career on the wants that people have, then that clearly, and it's successful, then that clearly just means that the value that you're bringing is something that people are willing to pay. So go for it, right? Go after it. And I've played that game for like 4.5 years, and it's time to shift into actually engaging with the economy in a way where people have a better life. People have the resources to be able to pay for gas, pay for groceries, put food on the table, be able to put some away for their kids to go to college. It really teach them how to save and put away things for college, right? Like being able to have that both and happening, and being able to have those extra margins and those extra factors. I want to be someone who can actually engage with my community and with my state, with my local spaces, with my state, with my country in a way that has people's quality of life go up, and their level of critical thinking, responsibility, discernment, understanding what's a lie, what's a truth, what does that actually mean, what is that based off of, why does it matter? All of those things. I am deeply passionate and committed, especially to my peers and young America who are struggling with this, who aren't being taught this necessarily. And to be honest, that's not a diss at parents at all. A lot of young adults they've put their earplugs in to their parents, or they're not listening anymore. They're sick of being talked at, and they think they have the answers. We all thought we had the answers. I thought I had the answers. I quit college and started my business, and I'm very grateful for what I learned, and I made a lot of stupid decisions. I made a lot of stupid choices, and there's always consequences to those choices. But the reality is, when we're teaching young adults to make decisions, to be responsible for the consequences, whether they choose something that you may not choose, whether they make a decision that you would not choose, that you would not decide on, that you would have not taken, right? Regardless of that, what's most important is that they're learning how to be responsible for the decisions they're making, how to actually assess, what is my worldview? Based on my worldview, what are my priorities? Are these decisions, are these options that I'm saying yes or no to, how do they fit into the priorities that I have, right? When I talk to a young adult who's in high school, who wants to be a mom, who wants to be, a wife, who, wants a career that they can do until they get there, that can engage, that can serve, they can apply themselves. My understanding of their worldview and their priorities is going to drastically change the kind of insight, the kind of advice, the kind of questions that I would ask. Where if I'm talking to somebody who's very ambitious and has big careers and big ways that they want to change, and that requires a bigger investment, or it requires a bigger risk, or it requires a different kind of avenue, right? Both of those things are just as valuable to each of those individual people, right? Having children, being a mom, engaging with bringing life into the world and nurturing and cultivating, that is just as valuable to that person in that moment than the person who wants to be a lawyer or wants to be whatever. And they may change, and this one may change, right? They may decide something different. They may decide something different in how they apply their worldview and how they apply what the priorities they have. But at the end of the day, being able to discern, hey, what matters to me and why, and how are the decisions that I'm making going to influence my worldview? Because it definitely goes both ways. And how is my worldview going to influence the decisions I make? And that is the difference between playing this game on defense. Hey, how do I block all of the influences that could attack my worldview? How do I that's the defense, right? Offense is, I am going to strengthen my worldview. I'm going to strengthen what I believe and why. I'm going to test it from a place of building resilience, building character. I'm going to get wisdom in my ears from people who are smarter and older and more experienced than me. I'm going to engage with conversations that are respectful and in good faith in the way that we're interacting. And I'm going to strengthen and build my character and my resiliency. And that is going to influence the choices and decisions that I make. We're playing this game wrong, y'all. We're playing this game wrong because if we're coming from this perspective of constantly playing on the defense and trying to block every time the world tries to influence us intentionally from a place of brainwashing, from a place of control, because y'all, culture is not innocent. Culture is not accidentally getting in the way. Culture is intentionally the institutions that you're putting your kids in, the workforce that you're putting your kids in, the places that they're engaging, their peers, the people around them, everything around them there are so many factors around them that are intentionally infiltrating their life, right? This is not an accident. This is intentional. And so instead of playing on a defense, how to like block them, we get to play on an offense. Hey, how do we strengthen our worldview? How do we strengthen our character? And that be the thing that actually influences the decisions we make. I trust this was valuable to you, that you learned some interesting things, that you engaged with the content, that you go look and research and study. I want to hear from some of you that were watching. What decisions are you considering making? How can I pray for you? How can I support you in whatever decisions you're making? How can the people around you that love you and care about you support you in making decisions, support you in learning critical thinking skills? Maybe you have not been listening, not been using your ears with your parents, not been using your ears with the people around you that love you and care about you. Maybe you get to use your ears not from a place of, I need to receive everything that I'm hearing, but from a place of, I'm going to hear them. I'm going to allow that to come into my brain and mull around and say, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to pray about this. I'm going to consider this. And then be able to make a decision in the variety of voices that are coming into your head. And this is why, y'all, it is, we're definitely going to be talking more and more on this channel about being able to build those discerning and critical thinking skills, because more than the college you choose, more than the degree you choose, more than the career you choose to be in, more than the way that you engage in the workforce, if you are learning how to critically and discerning fully, I don't think that's a word. It's probably not a word. It's in the Katie vocabulary. It's in the Katie dictionary. How you discern all of the voices, all of the influences, they're coming in your ears, in your head, out on your feed, all of the things. Being able to learn how to discern, how to ask the questions that bring forth the truth, that reveal the true intention, the true objective, the true nature of what is in front of you, is far more important than any degree you choose. Is far more important than any workforce you choose to be involved in. Is far more important than any degree you go off and get. And if you can come from that perspective, whoa, I'm learning to have that strength and resilience of character. I'm learning to have a solid worldview that I see why I believe in it and why, right? I see the evidence, even if other people dispute it, right? Because playing the game of, again, being on the defense of blocking everybody who disagrees with you, blocks everybody who says, hey, that's not evidence. I don't believe in that evidence. Do you believe in that evidence? Does that evidence give you the ease of mind to say, yes, this is my worldview. This is what I believe in. Here's why I believe in it. Then choose things from a space of integrity from that place. Choose things from, I'm like knocking you over with the laptop. Choose from a place of integrity. You may someday get to the point, y'all, I'll leave with a personal story and then I'll scoot. One of the things that has been very, very challenging for me over the last several years is having been involved in so many spaces where I was choosing to opt into environments that were intentionally working at my worldview to change it, to change how I saw the world, to change how I saw myself in the world, and to change it from a more self-focused, self-involved, self-obsessive perspective than a service perspective, a humble, grateful perspective. And while I'm grateful because now I can see and detect when that's happening and what that looks like and what that sounds like, it's also a season in my life where I can see, hey, I made intentional choices to opt into that. And I didn't have to, but I chose to. So there was something about what I believed, and if I believed it, truly believed it, that highly influenced the opting in of it. And then what was coming to me, the influences, the infiltration, the agendas, just ended up flowing into the cracks of what I already didn't believe or didn't fully believe or whatever, right? So it's just understanding that, like, when you have those cracks, instead of walking around in the world thinking that nobody's going to fill them, know that people are battling for your attention. The most valuable resource that people want from you is not your money. It's not your time exclusively. It is your attention. Your attention involves your time. Your attention involves your money. Attention involves all the different resources that you obtain as a human being. People around you want your attention. If they know if they have your attention, then they can influence what you believe. They can influence why you believe it. They can influence how your behavior follows your belief. Don't be naive, whether you're a parent or you're a peer like me. Hi. Whoever you are who's watching, don't be naive in thinking that people are in good faith interacting with you from a place of respect, from a place of, respecting your opinion, even if it's different. And I believe that there is absolutely the opportunity to be this way, to engage in that way, to, even if it's on small spectrums, right? Even if it's small groups of people that learn how to have critical thinking, how to respect each other, how to, engage even when we disagree, especially when we disagree, in good faith, in a perspective of respect, right? And when I say good faith, I mean their objective is not to, indoctrinate you secretly, intentionally, without your consent. But they're coming to this conversation, respecting your opinion, respecting that you have this opinion, and engaging in a space that says, hey, I have the freedom to say I disagree. I have the freedom to tell you why I disagree. I have the freedom to tell you why I think that you're wrong. But I'm also not going to engage in this interaction sneakily, deceptively, trying to change your perspective without your consent, right? So this is the good faith that we don't see in the world often, but is absolutely possible and absolutely relevant and absolutely something that we need to learn together. All right, y'all. What an amazing Friday it's been. This has been a blast. You'll definitely see some smaller highlights and tidbits of this out in the world in the next couple days. But I'm excited that you joined me here. And for anybody who joins afterward, I will see you on the next one. All right, bye.